Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week's episode is a fun one, but also a kind of sad one. I'm sharing my presentation from SearchLove San Diego a few weeks ago, the last SearchLove conference ever. SearchLove has always been one of my favorite digital marketing conferences. For those of you who don't know, it's always been the most stellar conference content out there. Speakers are handpicked. No one gets to pitch to be there. And it's a single track conference, so everyone gets to hear every speaker. I was lucky enough to get invited, and they just announced at the end of February that this would be the last SearchLove conference. So while I'm excited to share my presentation, I'm also pretty bummed that this was my last time at SearchLove. Let's get right to it.
Well, this is Ant-Man's Tactical Guide to Local SEO. You know who I am because you're watching this on my weekly video series, but be sure to check this series out every Tuesday if you're not already a regular viewer. And there's a cool photo of me speaking at a conference, acting like a nut job. I'm lucky enough to get to speak at conferences all over the world. I spoke at 32 conferences last year, in fact. And because of that, sometimes I see some speakers that maybe have some great info to share, but aren't the most entertaining to watch. They'll typically stand with their back kind of to the crowd because they're reading their own slides, and the background of their slides is plain white, and they only use black Arial font. And they pack every slide with bullet points, and they just sit there and read bullet points for the entire presentation, which is no fun to watch. Plus, it's a scientifically proven fact that bullet points kill kittens. So we're going to keep all the kittens safe in today's presentation. Now, the first time that I spoke at SearchLove was way back in 2016, and I had 121 references to comedy movies. And then I beat that in 2018 at SearchLove London with 139 sci-fi movies. So since this is the last SearchLove, I have to beat it. We got 142 superhero movie references, including at least one movie for every year in the last 50 years. And there's attribution to the side, so for the older, more obscure stuff, you'll still at least understand what's going on and maybe have a great movie list to watch after you've watched the presentation. So let's get this going. Why the long face? Are you spending too much time looking up at competitors that rank higher in local searches? You don't have to have a massive brain to know what to do. It's not actually that hard, even though sometimes it seems like it's a bunch of magic. But today I'm going to help you because I've got some hot tips to share with you that will help you crush your competitors and kick ass in local search results. In today's world, local SEO is more important than ever. Not only did COVID change consumer behavior at a fundamental level, more queries than ever have local intent. Google has seen that people are changing the way that they shop, and there are certain queries that used to pull all e-commerce results, but now pull local results, like this one, where all I did was search patio furniture. The local algorithm is different, and it includes additional signals that you don't have to worry about when you're doing regular SEO. So if we're looking at different signals, that means you need to have different strategies for optimizing for that local algorithm. So how do you know if you need it? It's pretty easy if you do face-to-face business with customers, either at a brick and mortar physical store location, or maybe you do face-to-face business because you're a service business and you go to the customer's location to do business, then you need local SEO. Or, like with the patio furniture example, search a couple of your important keywords, and if a map pack is displayed, that shows local intent, which means at least for those queries, you need local SEO. The best thing to do is to pay attention to the annual local search ranking factor study, where they take the top 40 worldwide experts in local search, send out a big in-depth study, and then aggregate all the answers to get a pretty good handle on which factors influence visibility. Now, I'm about to show you last year's factors because we actually just did this year's study and the results haven't been released yet. But you get two pie charts, one that shows the factors that influence your visibility in the local pack or in Google Maps, and another one that shows you the factors that influence your visibility in the standard 10 blue organic links below the map pack. Now, in regular SEO, we always have talked about how search results are displayed based on relevance and prominence. But when we're talking about local search results, proximity is also included in there, which means the distance from the searcher to the search results can influence what that searcher is going to see in their search results. If you need help understanding the how of local SEO, I like to use pizza delivery, and this video will walk you through it if you want to check it out in more detail. But at a high level, let's say you're sitting at your office and you search 2 words in Google, pizza delivery. You get a list of all the pizza spots right there by the office. But then you could go home and try the same search with the same 2 words, pizza delivery, and you're going to get a completely different set of search results. With traditional SEO, that wouldn't really matter. You'd get the same search results. But with local SEO, because your location has changed and that proximity factor has changed, you'll see different results. Now, you got to remember that local SEO isn't just optimizing for visibility. It's also about optimizing the user experience and doing conversion optimization, because we know that people are going to shop around before they buy or before they even submit a lead. In fact, the more expensive your product or service is, the more likely it is that people are going to do a lot of research before they convert, which means you need to stand out from competitors and be appealing and be memorable so people will come back and convert at a later date. So think of it like this. You're not just optimizing to show up in Google, you're optimizing to give people a reason to come back to your website in the future. Because if you've got the same generic content on your site that everybody else in town has, why would anybody care? Why would that matter? Your content needs to show everyone why you are awesome. It needs to actually be about your business, not the same generic stuff that everybody has. And it needs to be about the local area as well. And there's a really easy way to test that. Take your homepage content or your About Us page content or a page like that. Change only 2 things, the name of your business and the city that you're located in. If you only change those 2 things, could you take that content off of your homepage and put it on a similar business's website on the other side of the country? If the content still works, it's not really about you and it's not really about your local area. You should also test your content by reading it out loud. Everything should sound conversational, like something that you would say face-to-face to a customer that just walked through the front door, or maybe that you're talking to on the phone. And when you read it out loud, your brain will catch those things that your marketing blinders don't catch. Marketing blinders will tell you, oh, this keyword's there a bunch. You're going to rank for that. But when you read it out loud, you hear that it doesn't sound conversational and you'll know that you need to fix it. That's also where you hear the janky things that people do, like listing all of the cities that you serve customers in. Well, that person's already on your website, so they don't care. And you're not going to rank in all those cities just because you had them in a comma-separated list. So don't do stuff like that. At a basic level, the best way to think about optimizing for search results is this. If you want to show as a search result for a particular search phrase, then you need a page of content on your website that's about that singular concept. And that page needs to be the best answer in the local area to the question that the searcher is asking. And if you're writing the best answer, that typically means you're going to answer some of the subsequent questions that that potential customer would have after they get that initial answer to the question that they were asking. So you need to optimize differently. You need to write that awesome content, but you've got to optimize for the local algorithm as well. So across each of these page elements I'm about to mention, you need the same keyword phrase and the same location phrase. So title tag, most important, most weighted element on the page. Make sure you've got both of those in the title tag and don't put your business name first. You've got to have it in your H1 heading as well. Obviously, it needs to be in the page content. But if you've written the best answer in the local area that answers subsequent questions, that's also all about you, you probably won't have to optimize too much here. Get those keyword phrases into your URL as well. Now, this doesn't mean you need to go back and change URLs for content that's already on your site. Once it's been indexed, it's not really going to make that much of a difference. But as you create new content, always keep that in mind. You should have it on the alt text on your images as well. It's something that has been in the algorithm for a long time, even though Google's machine learning systems can now tell what's in an image pretty accurately. Alt text is still part of the algorithm, and it's something a lot of marketers don't do anything with. Plus, not having alt text opens you up to potential lawsuits for not being ADA compliant. So make sure you've got that alt text in there. And then the meta description is important as well. Obviously, the meta description doesn't play with the ranking algorithm, but since it's displaying that text under your blue link in Google, awesome optimized meta descriptions help you get better click-throughs to your website. You got to have a blog, and you need to post to that blog on a regular basis, because there's a huge difference between the content on your website, which is typically bottom of funnel content, and the content on your blog, which is mid to upper funnel content that's more about discovery or more about informational type content. In fact, if you make your blog a local destination and share helpful, useful, interesting information about the local area, that can be a big win for local SEO. Think of it like you're putting a billboard up on the freeway. You don't expect that everyone that sees the billboard is going to buy from you. You put it there for brand awareness and brand building. Same thing with that local content. Because if everything on your site is only about the product or service that you sell, that's a narrow focus. You're only going to show up for someone looking to buy right now. So share helpful information about the local area and you'll show up before people are looking to buy what you sell, which means you're more likely to be in consideration when they are likely to buy. So if you need ideas for this because you hadn't done it before, I've got an awesome video here that walks you through 10 high-level concepts that you can use as a springboard to figure out your own personalized but localized blog content. And businesses always want to rank outside of their physical location. I want to show up in the next city over. I want to show up in the entire metro. You've got to own your backyard before you try to expand your visibility, which means you have to have a solid enough SEO foundation that you will dominate the search results in the city that you're in. If you don't have enough of a foundation to do that, it's pretty unlikely you're going to show up in other cities as well. But if you're in a less competitive area or a rural area, you can just throw up some city pages and do pretty well. That video explains how. But if there's a lot more competition or, a pretty dense metro, you're going to need to be more advanced and create local content silos. And this video here will walk you through how to do that. And we all know that links are really important to Google's algorithm, but they actually are evaluated differently in the local algorithm. We don't worry about those domain authority or domain rating or authority scores because typically links from local websites are going to have a very low authority score if you run them through a link tool. And we don't worry if it's a no-follow link because it's been proven time and time again that no-follow links still make a huge difference in the local algorithm. The main thing to remember is you want to get links from local businesses and local websites. And the easiest way to do that is to go back and do all the things that businesses used to do before we had the internet for community exposure. All of those old school grassroots marketing techniques are the things you should be doing again because it still gets you exposure in the community, but it also leads to awesome link opportunities. So if you just get involved in the local community, it's really easy to earn those local links. A couple of ideas I want to run you through. Local sponsorships are great. Now, keep in mind, you need a natural looking profile, so you don't want to skew too hard at any one tactic. But while Google's not okay with you buying a link, Google's totally okay with you buying a sponsorship that results in a link. So Little League, Pee Wee Hockey, Pee Wee Football, 5Ks, marathons, golf tournaments, anything like that. Local meetups are great too. Go to meetup.com or Facebook groups and look for local groups that have a regular monthly meeting. You throw in $40 or $50 a month to buy their snacks and their soft drinks, and boom, you get a killer link out of it. Find any way you can to get the local bloggers to write about you, even if they say they got a free product or service to write that blog post. Doesn't matter, you still get a killer local blog post. Talk to the team and find out what they do in their free time, what they're passionate about. I'm not talking about the clubs or organizations the business belongs to. I'm talking about what the staff does in their free time, especially if they're part of the leadership group of one of these local clubs or organizations. It's going to be exceedingly easy to get a link from one of those websites. And neighborhood watch sites are great too, because typically most of the neighborhood watch sites now have WordPress sites. And these people are crazy about being on these sites and gossiping about what's going on in the neighborhood. So if you can offer a neighborhood specific discount or special, you're going to get a killer link that's relevant down to the neighborhood level. Use Google as well. Throw your own city in and come up with a list of things you're looking for, and Google's going to spit out a list of all the opportunities that you can go after. And I'm sharing our onboarding questionnaire with you. We have a link building questionnaire that we send out to every new client we work with. It's a couple of pages of questions to help you uncover low-hanging fruit of things that have already happened in the past that you can go do cleanup and get links for, or it also helps you prioritize link building efforts moving forward. So check that out for sure. Customer reviews are also a weighted element in that local algorithm, and they've actually gained weight every year for the past few years. They've become more and more important. But don't worry too much about that testimonial page on your site. It's pretty worthless in potential customers' eyes because everyone knows that a testimonials page on a website is only going to have the best of the best 5-star reviews. People actually want to read honest, unbiased reviews on third-party websites. So you need to have a proactive review process. You need to make it easy for customers to leave a review, and you need to ask every single customer. And it's important to remember that not one, not two, not three, but over time, if you continually get reviews that mention a keyword phrase that you're trying to rank for, you'll actually start to rank better for that keyword phrase. This video here walks you through what to do, but most importantly, you can't tell people what to write because it's against Google's guidelines and can get you in a whole lot of trouble. But you can Jedi mind trick people into using the terms you want them to use with just a few simple questions. So when you watch the video about making it easy and asking every customer, I talk about setting up a reviews page on the site with a simple thank you message and links to the different review profiles where people can leave reviews. But in between the message and the links, put something in there like, hey, you're not sure what to write? The best reviews offer specific details and tips. Here are a couple questions that might help. Now, I listed 5 or 6 questions here related to car dealerships, but you could obviously ask your own. You typically only ask 2 to 3 questions. You don't want to have too many. But notice the first question here, did you buy a new car or a used car? Well, if somebody bought a used car, they're going to use the word used car or at least used in their review now when they may not have before. So it's a really great trick. You should definitely use it. You want to make sure you answer every single review, not just the good ones, not just the bad ones, but every review that you get. And remember, when you're responding to a bad review, that response isn't for the person that left the review. It's for every potential customer in the future that's reading your reviews and wants to see how you handled things. If you're starting a brand new business, we do see that there's a little bit of a threshold at 10 reviews where once you get 10 reviews, you'll get a little bit of a rankings boost and you'll show up a little bit better in your area. But beyond that, the total number of reviews that you have, it really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that you've got more than the local competition. But you don't want to get too many more though, because if you vastly outpace your competitors, human nature, people are going to think that you're faking your reviews, even if they're all legitimate. So you have to tread that thin tightrope and make sure that you've got more, but not too many more. And think about your acquisition pace as well and pay attention to the competition. You want to make sure that you're getting new reviews at a pace that's either equal to or slightly faster than the local competition. There's a really cool Chrome extension that I always love to tell people about from Plepper Tools, which lets you do review analysis at scale pretty quickly. Because if you go to the local finder page where you do a search, you get the map pack with the 3 results, click more results, takes you to the finder page, and use this. It will give you an aggregate overview of all of the businesses that show up in that finder page or in that Google Maps page. So you'll see the average rating of all the reviews, the average reviews, the average review count, the maximum rating of anyone, the lowest rating anyone's had, the most reviews, etc. So it's really great to check this out and see what's going on. Also, some really cool research has been done lately by Sterling Sky and their amazing team. And one of those uncovered that if the photo includes a review, it stays in that top 10 default sort a lot longer. And if there are more words, the word count of the review, if it's longer, it stays in that top 10 default sort for a longer period of time. And if it's got 2 or more thumbs up and it's upvoted, it will typically stay in that top 10 sort for much longer. Now we want to finish up talking about Google Business Profiles because they're your new homepage. Anytime someone searches for you by name, this is what they're going to see before they get to your website. So you want to make sure you fill out everything that you can fill out, and be sure to include UTM tracking on your website links because the default attribution method is a little bit broken, and a lot of times mobile clicks on your business, either in your Google Business Profile panel or in the map pack or in Google Maps searches, will be attributed as direct traffic. So adding that UTM tracking ensures that organic clicks are tracked accordingly. If you are a single location business, make sure that that website link points to the home page of your website. If you are a multi-location business with a single website, Your Google Business Profile website link should point to the individual location page for that location. You want to make sure that your GBP landing page, whether it's a location page or it's your homepage, is optimized around your most important money keyword phrase and the city that you're in. You want to be sure that you're listing a local phone number. Used to be really important to the algorithm, probably isn't as important anymore, but is really great as a conversion factor if you're trying to get those local customers to call you. And it is definitely okay and actually encouraged to use a tracking number as your phone number in your Google Business Profile, but make sure you're getting a local area code tracking number. And then you've got 2 alternate phone number slots that don't show to the public. Drop your actual real phone number in one of those alternate slots so the algorithm sees consistency everywhere. Make sure you've got your correct business hours listed. Make sure you're uploading a lot of high quality professionally shot photos. Make sure you're selecting all of the correct categories. You've got 10 slots. Doesn't mean you have to fill up all 10, but in nearly every case, there's more than one category that applies. So be sure that you're picking the correct categories and be strategic with what you choose as your primary category. That top primary category carries more weight in Google's algorithm. So you want to be strategic. Watch this video. It will walk you through it. If you're having problems with your business profile, you don't want to go to GBP support. It's pretty awful. So instead, there is a public forum for every Google product. So you'd want to go to the Google Business Profile Community Forum and post there. And there are various people called product experts who are volunteers who have been endorsed by Google because they help on a regular basis. And those product experts at gold level or above have the ability to escalate your issue directly to the Google Business Profile team and get you help. So it's a much more efficient, much faster way to get help in most cases. You want to make sure you're using Google Posts so that you will stand out and get more click-throughs to your website. I did a Whiteboard Friday a few years ago for Google Posts, so I don't want to spend too much time digging into them here because I'm trying to keep this as succinct as possible, but definitely check that out. It's about 15 minutes of densely packed information about how to be successful with Google Posts. The most important thing, though, is to pay attention to the post thumbnail. It's going to crop in on the image, and it's only going to show the first few lines of text. And most people don't think about this. And if that thumbnail is not enticing, nobody's going to click on it, and nobody will see the full post. And you'll wonder why you're doing all these posts that nobody's clicking on. But image cropping is really wonky and inconsistent. So we created a Photoshop template to give you better control over what's going to show in that thumbnail. So important elements aren't cropped out or important text isn't cropped out. So you can download it at the URL right there. It's going to look like this. Anything inside of that white grid is safe and will not be cropped out, and the rest of the image will show when they see the full post. Don't use stock images, because a lot of research has been done to show that if you don't use a stock image, your posts will get up to 5 times more click-throughs than images with stock images. You should also pay attention to the questions and answers section in your Google Business Profile, because it allows anybody to ask you a question and any random person can answer that question for you, which is really scary. The general public thinks it's a chat widget and that somebody's on the other end at your business waiting to answer that question, but it's really a community discussion widget. So you need to pay attention to what's going on. And questions can receive multiple answers, but whichever answer has the most thumbs up or the most upvotes is the one that's displayed as the primary answer. So all the more important to stick around, pay attention on at least a weekly basis to make sure that your owner answers are always upvoted to be displayed as the primary answers to all of your questions. You can even ask your own questions, preload your own common questions here. People aren't going to go to your FAQ page and read through 50 random questions to see if a similar question to theirs has an answer. And they're not really going to do that here either on your business profile. But the really cool thing about how this works is if someone goes to type a question, but a similar question has been asked and answered in the past, Google will autocomplete the question and display an answer to that question as they're typing it in, which makes a stellar pre-site first impression and makes it more likely that people are going to click through and convert with you. We're doing a really big, or we did a really big research project partnered with Places Scout, which is by far the best local SEO tool out there, to analyze 8,500 Google business profiles across 3 verticals. we're about to release this research, but the way that we found it, we ended up with 2,732 business profiles for car dealers by running Ford dealer, Chevy dealer, Toyota dealer, Jeep dealer, Kia dealer, and used car dealer in those 14 cities, or however many cities. I think it's 14. I think of math. Then we ended up with 3,400 business profiles for personal injury attorneys by running personal injury attorney and car crash lawyer in the same 14 cities. And then we did cannabis dispensaries. We ended up with 2,500 of those by running dispensary, cannabis, and marijuana in all of those cities. Now, local SEO is a massive opportunity for dispensaries because they can't run PPC since it's still illegal at a federal level. And recreational marijuana is now legal in 21 states and the District of Columbia. But the crazy thing is, when we started digging through the data, there were 59 different primary categories used by these dispensaries. And notice, only 80% had cannabis store as their primary category, which is for sure the one that every one of them should have. And even worse, 2% of the dispensaries just had store as their primary category, which is the most generic thing you could possibly choose. And 61%, more than half of the profiles, only had a single category. And we saw an average of just over 380 reviews per location and an average of almost 11 questions per location in the Q&A section. And out of all of those questions, remember that was 3,000, like 3,500 dispensaries with an average of 10 means 35,000 questions-ish. Only 1% of all of those questions had an answer from the business. And then looking at the personal injury lawyers, they tend to be really aggressive with local SEO. They really get it. So you'd think that they'd be better. But we saw 28 different primary categories. Only 78% had personal injury attorney as number one. And in fact, 8% just had law firm, which is just about the most generic thing you could have. But that one's attorney. And almost 5% of the people had that. So a lot of them not getting it right here. 30% of the profiles only had a single category. And we saw a lot fewer average reviews here, but it's a little tougher to get reviews for personal injury attorneys, so that's not surprising. And then we looked at car dealers, and they're very SEO focused, but they typically don't do local SEO or understand local SEO. And they've got several unique features on their Google business profiles and unique rules where they're able to have department listings for different departments, even though they don't necessarily follow the standard guidelines for having the ability to have separate departments. And they have different rule adjustments, like they can display their live inventory in their Google business profile. We saw 29 different primary categories. Not surprising that we saw a mix because we ran multiple dealerships, but notice almost 20% just had car dealer, which is the most generic thing that you could choose. So that didn't make sense either. And 27% only had a single category, which is shocking because for car dealers, there are more than 10 categories that could go into that primary listing. And in fact, there's more than 10 categories for sales, more than 10 categories for parts, and more than 10 categories for service. So for that 27% that only had one single category, that's definitely not great. A lot more reviews over here, averaging 979.5 reviews. And looking at the separate departments that they're allowed to have, only a little over half of the dealerships had those set up, which was pretty shocking. And about 30% of the dealerships did not have their inventory displayed, even though they're able to. So a lot of shocking stuff as we're digging through this. And then we start to filter by map pack position and start to see even more interesting stuff. So the numbers there on the left in parentheses show the average number of reviews per vertical. And if we look at the average number of reviews at position 1 versus position 10, for dispensaries, we see 563 or almost 564 reviews averaging at that number 1 spot and 227 at number 10. Makes sense. We know reviews are weighted. Probably the guys that rank higher have more reviews. Same thing with attorneys. We see 163 on average at position number 1 and an average of only 57 at position number 10. And then the car dealers came and screwed it all up with almost a little more than 3 times the number of reviews at position number 10 than position number 1. And you're probably thinking, wait, what? But that's because it's not just reviews. Dealers tend to go to try to get more reviews because they think it's an easy fix, but it's really coming down to better content and better links for those guys that rank higher. So we're going to be releasing the full results of this study on our blog here at SearchLab soon. So make sure you come check that out. We also have a really cool SEO scoring matrix that we use at conferences and for demonstrations for potential customers that we're going to be working with. It's basically a mini audit, and it scores the 4 major areas that influence visibility and local searches, which are the content on your site and how it's optimized, the links pointed at your website, your Google business profile, and your reviews and how you respond to those reviews. Now, it's important to point out that the matrix scores on tactics, not strategy. If it was too strategy focused, then any of these businesses that we run the matrix on could take it to their current marketing partner or their in-house marketing team, and those results could be refuted. They could say, hey, look, no, that's SearchLab's way of doing SEO. Don't pay attention. Our way is better. When we keep it at the basic tactical level, it makes it more universally helpful because you can't really refute basic SEO tactics. While everyone might have a different strategy, everyone's pretty much going to agree that the basic tactics are the same throughout. Now, this was a big game changer for us when we started using this. It actually more than doubled our close rate on demos. So the 4 areas are weighted to approximate each of those areas' importance or weight in Google's algorithm, and you can get a total score ranging anywhere from 0 to 100 points. Now, 100 points is pretty much impossible. There are way too many factors that are outside of everyone's total control. But the highest score that we saw was an 83.6 across the over 700 that we have done since the beginning of 2022. But that was one of our clients. So if we take our clients out of the mix, the highest score that we saw was a 65.2. And then the lowest score that we saw was all the way down at negative 58. If we average all the scores together for the just over 700 businesses that we've run this matrix on, the average score is only 18 out of 100. So pretty crazy. If you'd like to check the matrix out and maybe use it for yourself, I've got 2 versions here for you. The generic version is a version you can use for any business that serves local clients. And then we've also tweaked it a bit for different verticals. We've got one for attorneys, one for cannabis dispensaries, one for car dealers. So I'm sharing the car dealer matrix with you here as well, so you can see the differences there and how the scores are weighted out and what we're assessing. So thanks so much for sitting through that massive fire hose of information with me today. Hopefully now you're not going to be depressed and down when you're thinking about local search results, because you've got all of these hot tips. I know I use the joke again, but it cracks me up. You got all these hot tips to help you do better, so you'll show up more often and get more potential customers. So you'll no longer be the underdog in search results, and everyone will be super excited. So that was Ant-Man's Tactical Guide to Local SEO. If you've got questions, pop me an email right there. Or if you'd like to get a copy of these slides, let me know. I'd be happy to share them with you, because also at the end, there is a list of all the movies by order of release date. So you'll have that kick-ass list of superhero movies to watch. Thanks so much for sticking around and watching today.
Thanks for sticking around to watch the whole thing. But that's definitely all the time we've got left for this week's episode. So you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.